This is Bliss Oasis. Change your thinking, change your life.
In various areas.
How many you said? How many of you?
We are a number of 9 volunteers.
Okay.
And I happen to be the project manager. I coordinate the activities of the project.
You are their mother.
Yeah, they call me Fire Mama.
Fire Mama, that's nice. That's nice.
That is street slang, eh? Yeah, and for you to fit in the streets, you really have to understand their language and speak it.
Welcome to another episode of Bliss Oasis Africa. I'm your host, Patrick Ngugi. At Bliss Oasis, we believe everyone has a story and we give them opportunity to tell it. Please subscribe to this channel if you are new here so that you don't miss future episodes. And please also share the video with your friends. Our guest for this episode is Faith Gikunda. As a young girl, Faith was already disseminating news to the school assembly while in primary school after her teachers discovered her inherent passion and talent in observing the world around her and putting it down on paper. Faith would also be mesmerized by the books brought home by her teacher father, and she would devour them as she did the newspapers. At that tender age, Faith has already charted her destiny, and as if the universe had answered her desire, things started working out for her that would chart her way into journalism and see her writing for mainstream media newspapers such as the People Daily and the Standard, and also a good number of non-governmental organizations. In this episode, Faith tells Bliss Oasis Africa podcast about her journey as a young girl in Meru who came to Nairobi to learn journalism and what she's currently doing back home in Meru after capturing her dream. Welcome to the podcast. But before we usher in Faith, let's listen to today's message. And today's message is about definite chief aim. As we have probably heard elsewhere before, we should have a definite chief aim in life in order to be successful. When you have and pursue a definite chief aim, people and circumstances needed to accomplish your desire start appearing as if by magic. Without such an aim, you'll find yourself drifting through life. Definite chief aim helps you to acquire, direct, and the infinite power of your mind towards your success. And how do you create the definite chief aim? 1, get a clear description of the aim and live into the picture as if it's already true. 2, get a clear statement of what you intend to give in return. There's no free lunch. You have to give something back. It could be practice, savings, or just something to make you move towards your aim. 4, believe that you can attain it. 4, inspired action. Take inspired action and tune in and flow guidance from the source energy or intuition. 5th, persevere and stay on course. Your dominating thoughts will transform into physical realities. Thank you. And now let's go to the interview with Faith Gikunda. Asanteni. Welcome again to Bliss Oasis Africa, where we bring you different Kenyans to tell us about their stories, their challenges, their conquests in life, and how they've managed to come through. And today we are privileged to have Faith Gikunda, who I think, if you ask me, I believe she's a journalist, but she'll also tell us more about herself because I know her as a journalist for many years. At one time, I know she was in the Standard, And then we also did a few features together here and there. But now she's here to tell us about that and something slightly different. She's doing some amazing job back in Meru, and she's going to tell us about it. But first, welcome to Bliss Oasis Africa, Faith. And please tell us briefly about yourself and what and how life has brought you up to where you are. Karibu sana.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. It's a pleasure to see you in quite a number of years. Yeah, we actually have worked together on quite a number of projects, and it's been a pleasure. And even if I am no longer practicing in the mainstream media, but I am now doing development communication. So my journey in writing, or my journey as a communicator, started very many years ago. That is when I was about in class 3. That was about 8 years, 9 years. That is when I started writing. I would write short stories in class. I remember many times I got punished for not concentrating because I kept on writing stories. In the morning, on my way to school, I would see or witness something that happened on the road and write it. So yes, my journey has been quite interesting because I know I was very lucky to have discovered my talent in writing when I was very young. When I went to school in Meru, I was born in Meru as well, and I went to school in a school known as St. Teresa's, where I can say is where my writing skills were sharpened. There's one of my teachers back in school realized that I loved writing quite a lot. But of course, that was after a number of punishments, after I went through a rough time because of lack of concentration. But in class 5, he discovered that I really had a talent for writing. So in line with that, there was a club that was existing in the school that was not very active then, but now we restarted it again. It was known as Sana Club, that is a Swahili, because he was a Swahili teacher, and that is why he really called it that. And I remember that we would sit down, tell stories, write short stories. At times they would be read out in the assembly or in classes. So that is where my journey started many years ago.
Yes, and was it still in primary school when you are doing this, and now was it in secondary school?
No, Sana was in primary school. And when I completed primary school, I went to a high school known as Gikunda Girls. It's still in Meru. And in my first year in school, of course, I was developing confidence and accessing the situation in school. But again, my urge for writing could not let me stay for so long without revisiting what I used to do in primary. So in high school, again, I started writing. And luckily enough, my teacher in me. There is one specific or one particular teacher that really was interested in what I was doing. His name was Mr. Mweti. We still talk a little because I think everyone has become very busy with life. So I expressed my urge for writing to him. He listened and helped me start a club, a journalism club in high school. So I think that is where, or rather not even thinking, I am certain that is where my confidence in communication was built, because we were given an opportunity, negotiated with the school. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday during assembly, we were allowed to read news. So we would broadcast news to the rest of the school. It was very interesting.
And where were you getting the news from?
Around the school, of course, there are many interesting stories. Students at that time would get engaged in, the life of students.
Yeah. Okay, now,
Yes,
before you go to your secondary school, you said you discovered your talent in writing while in your class, what? You are 8 years old.
Yes, I was in class, I was about 8 or 9 because I was in
About
class 3 then.
yes. So what exactly
Yes.
triggered this discovery? I mean, did you just automatically start writing, or you read something exciting? What happened?
Uh, I what I believe is that that was shaped by my dad's interest in reading as well. So
Mhm.
you'd come read then a series one was the River Between,
Uh-huh.
which belonged to my dad. I did not understand much about it then, but
Mm,
I've read it many other times.
mm,
So I remember you'd come with the storybooks. My dad is a teacher, or rather
mm,
was a teacher. So he would also come with the newspapers. Like for example, when he came during the weekend, he would come with a collection of newspapers for the whole
mm,
week.
mm,
Instead of doing my homework again, I would take time to revise the newspapers because they called it revising. I would
mm,
go so much into detail.
mhm.
And surprisingly, Patrick, when I was as young as that, I would read a newspaper and
Wow,
understand.
wow.
Yes.
At 8 years old.
Uh, yes, but of course, I would rush to the short stories. I remember I used to read Whispers quite a lot.
Wow.
I still have a collection of Whisper stories in a
Mm,
file for as young as when I was that age.
wow. Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting. So tell us about your secondary school life. You
Yes. So
you continue with this writing. Continue from there.
yes, when I was as in high school, as I was saying, a journalism club was started with the help of one of my teachers. We would observe during of course, we would read news, or rather broadcast news to the school on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That is when we had assembly. So during that is the Monday and Tuesday, part of Monday and Tuesday, or rather the days that we were not reading news, we would observe what was happening in the school and write it down and report to the school. And of course, most of it had a lot of jokes. So it was like a light moment for the school. So what I can say is my life in high school was very interesting, simply
Okay.
because I loved the writing.
Mm,
But at some point, I remember when I was in Form 3, I think it got so much over me because I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I
mhm,
knew I wanted to be a communications person. I knew I wanted to be a journalist. And I don't know if it was out of ignorance or it's because I was young.
mhm.
I thought that if I concentrate on English and Swahili only, I was set. So
Ah.
at some point, I started the skiving classes.
Mm,
When it was not English or Swahili, I would go to the dining to again read the short stories,
mm,
the set books and what have you. But again, I had very good teachers who talked to me. They told me that for me to succeed as a journalist, I needed to I
all
needed to
rounder.
study the subjects. Yes.
Mhm, mhm. Okay.
Yes.
So
So
you went through high school. You went to the university. What did you study?
yes, I studied communication at the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. I completed my high school in 1999. So I joined KIMC in 2000, in the year 2000. And again, I think, I don't know if it was fate or destiny, because it seemed that everything was set for me to become
A
a
writer.
journalist, as
Mm,
yes, a
mm,
writer.
mm.
Just to take you back a little to high school, I remember I started applying to go to KIMC when I was in Form 3.
From three.
Yes, and
Me,
funny enough,
meaning you sorry. Meaning you had already discovered there is something called KIMC, Kenya Institute
yes,
of Mass Communication.
yes, I remember I saw about KIMC in a newspaper again that my dad came with.
Mm,
There are those advertisements that would be done. Those days there was not a lot. The TV and radio was not very common, so
mhm.
mostly the advertisements would be through the newspapers. So I
Yes.
came across that. I talked to my dad. He told me it was one of the best training institutions for journalism. So I started applying as early as then. And funny enough, at some point I got a response advising me to, first of all, study and first of all, complete my high school. And then after that, I would now apply to go to the institution.
Yes. So
Yes. So
okay. Go on.
Yes, you can go ahead, Patrick.
No, I'm saying, okay, so you got that letter, you went through high school, then they called you. I mean, you went to KMC.
Yes, but again, it was not a walkover. You remember those days they would take only one person from a region.
Yes, I remember that.
Because, yes, they would take, for example, in the entire country, we were only taking about 20 to 25 people. So again, when I completed my high school, that year I was lucky. In 2000, they needed students because they would advertise once, is it in 2 or once in 3 years? So it was not every year that they were taking, they had intakes. So again, I was lucky. There was an advertisement for an intake and we were required to do the interviews at the district offices, at the Kenya News Agency offices. So I went for my interview in Meru at KNA, and unfortunately in Meru, I was not picked as the person from Meru. I didn't give up. I talked to an auntie who used to live in Nairobi because the Nairobi intake was slightly later, and in Nairobi they would take more people than in the other regions. So I talked to my auntie. She agreed. That I stay at her place as I wait for the interviews. And luckily enough, when I did my interview in Nairobi, I was picked.
That's good.
Yes, so I started my training in KMC.
When was this?
That was in the year 2000. So I joined KMC in 2000 September.
Okay.
Yes.
Was it a 3-year course? 3 years
Yes,
course?
it was a 3 years course, diploma in journalism. That it was a very, very intensive course that covered print media. It covered electronic media, that is radio and photography. So basically, on leaving, you are not trained just to become a print journalist, which was my speciality, but you left knowing how to be a radio producer. You left knowing how to be a TV producer, and also you'd be trained on how to take photos. So where I am right now, I can say at least I can do all that because my training entailed that.
I think you're going to be a Bliss Oasis reporter in Meru very soon.
Yeah, sure, I would love to.
Okay, so you went and stayed at your auntie's place and waited, hoping you'll be taken. Then they took you.
Yes.
Were you informed through a letter or a telephone call?
They would write letters, so you had to keep on checking at the post office, because then again in the early 2000s, telephone communication was for the very, very elite, or rather it was not very common, especially within the homesteads. Yes, in the offices it was, but at home you depend more on letters.
I remember we had telephone booths all over the place.
Yes.
And you would go there and queue, sometimes queue for hours if you want to make a call. That is. Yeah. So, who brought you the letter? Your aunt, or you went to the post office and found the letter?
Actually, what happened is that I think it was sheer luck, because my auntie then lived in South B, and KIMC is in the middle of South B and South C. So again, it was a walking distance. So I kept on checking until I think at some point that is the what was his name? The principal. The principal at some point
I think I
asked
remember
if
his name.
is Mr. Owako. Is it?
Osiako.
Osiako, yes,
Yes, I
Mr.
remember. I
Osiako.
remember the guy. Yes.
Yes, there was Mr. Osiako and the deputy was Mr. Kamau. Yes, so I kept on visiting. At times I would just go to the institution to say hi to the principal.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
At that time, did they remember this is the young girl who had written 2 years or 3 years earlier, ask you to come, ask you to join us?
I actually did, because even when we were doing the interviews, I told them I had carried the letters and the response that I got, because of course then there was no photocopy, so I did not have a copy of the letter I wrote.
So they
but
are
I
aware.
had a copy.
So they are aware you are the girl they had written to previously.
Yes, yes.
And now eventually, Osiako and company give you the letter. How did you feel?
It was an amazing experience. You know, like the way you see that your life now has become what you really wanted it to be, because the training to me was the beginning of the life that I always wanted of being in the media. So it was very exciting.
So you had a nice time, 3 years training, and then you learned what you learned. You finish your course. Did the government employ you, or what happened after that?
No, when I left KIMC, I chose to go to TV production first to learn the loops, because I wanted to be an all-round person. So when immediately I left, I went for a couple of months. I went to my internship in a production firm that was known as Picasa. It was in Chester House, I remember. So in Picasa, mostly they used to do documentaries on the climate change, the environment, agriculture. And then again, I think luck again was following me, because in relation to that, what I'm doing right now is what I did in Picasa those many years. So I was lucky to have participated in a production of a documentary by Monsanto about agriculture, and I remember then there were so many things that Monsanto was doing then, and it was in relation to agriculture. That is where now my interest in agriculture and environmental journalism was really, really shaped.
All right.
Yeah, so I did about 5 months of internship. And then immediately after, I joined now the mother of all, where my career now took shape completely. That was at the People newspaper.
The People newspaper, the mother of all. Why do you call
Yes.
it the mother of all?
Because basically what I can say is who I am today, what shaped me to what I am today was the People newspaper. I remember that is where we met.
Yes.
You are my sub. Yes, you are my sub
I was a
editor
sub
then, and I
editor
was
immediately after leaving Nation. I went there briefly.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we must have
and
met.
the reason,
Sorry, continue.
Okay, I'm saying the reason why I'm saying that is where my career was shaped is because being a reporter at the People meant that you really have to be a strong person to be able to take serious assignments. Because again, I believe that, or rather, that is where, as a young journalist, I was sent for my first main assignments, and which, as per my experience then, such assignments were given to senior reporters. But I think, again, the editors there believed in us. They believed that by sending us to those assignments is where really you'd learn how to handle them. So my main assignment was covering Katiba Watch. I remember it was a demonstration from, I think, from Uhuru Park to somewhere. that is where now I faced journalism head on.
Okay.
Of course, there was the tear gassing, there was that experience. And I remember when I was choosing a career, my dad telling me journalism was like being a soldier.
All right.
Yes, you would be sent to war, just like a soldier is done to cover. Yes, so now that is where my real experience with journalism began. And out of the experience of doing political here and there, I realized that I was not cut out to be a political reporter.
Eventually.
Yes. So and that is when now I discovered that my line of communication was majorly on human interest stories. That is, I would cover many issues on the environment, women's stories, and children and youth, of course.
And that is what you had already done in your primary school.
Yes, yes.
I agree with you when you say the People newspaper is a mother of all, because it has mothered so many journalists.
Yes.
Many senior journalists or many big names now went through the People newspaper. Because those days it was very difficult to go to Nation, Standard as when you're starting your career. But the People newspaper was almost taking in everybody. And many journalists like you got the experience from there. And I agree with you then that it is a mother of all.
Yeah.
So then how did you get to Standard? Because later on I thought you were writing for the Standard.
Yes, I did. Again, I think at that young age, I really knew what exactly I wanted in life. And I knew that I really wanted to report and reach as many people as possible.
Yes.
And through that, again, I went to the Standard asking to become a contributor, which again, I was given an opportunity. I did it for a short while. I also wrote a number of stories because again, it was very difficult to be in two places at the same time.
Yes.
Yes, so I would use a pen name then and use my real name at the Standard. Sorry, and at the People.
Yes, so you had a pen name at the Standard.
Yes, but I was just a contributor. I would contribute to a column. So whenever there were youth.
What name were you using? McKenna?
No, I choose to not say that.
Because it was pen name anyway.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes, then
So, short stint at the Standard. When did you eventually stop writing for the People?
I was at the People from around 2003 to around 2005. Yes, that is when I left and did. I used to, after immediately I left the People, there was a newspaper that the Citizen, that was owned by Citizen, that was known as the Leader.
Yeah, that is Citizen TV, Royal Media.
Yes, Royal Media. The newspaper belonged to Royal Media group of company, and it was known as the Leader. And I used to contribute to environmental stories, which I did for quite a number of months, and then it folded. I think what we were told is that they realized their business model, the newspaper could not fit in their business model. Okay. So again, somehow it folded. So that is why I had to leave. I contributed a little to the Metro, which was owned by Nation, Daily Metro. You remember Daily Metro?
Yeah, it was for Nairobi area.
Yes. And again, I think it did not fit in the business model very well. So again, it folded, but by then I had already left.
Okay.
So after that experience, Patrick, that is when I decided, I think for me, the mainstream media wasn't really interesting anymore for me in terms of me being there permanently. So I made a decision to move to development communication. So in 2006, I now started doing what I'm doing right now. That is communicating on environmental issues, communicating on human rights issues. And up to date, that is what I'm doing.
And when you say communication, human rights issues and development, where does your stories go, or where does you do this communication? What media do you use?
Okay. What I do currently is that I consult for different non-governmental organizations. Yes, so I take them through the journey of developing communication strategies. I do trainings on communication, again, mostly touching on communities and also on the technical, on the NGOs technical teams to again ensure that communication of what they are doing comes out very clearly. Yes, and they are able to tell the world exactly what they are doing and the impact that it's having on people's lives.
Okay. So you do
Yes.
not necessarily have to take information from them, the mainstream media, or publish them for mass media. It's just communication among their clients and so on.
I can say yes and no, because at times there is targeted communication that that is internal communication for the institution only. But we also do, or rather I participate also in external communication, where we develop stories on certain projects, we develop stories on certain activities and share them using the blogs. For example, I have contributed quite a lot to the blog by CCAFS. CCAFS is an NGO. Yes, I've also done stories for various other organizations.
Yes.
Yes, so basically not mainly in the mainstream media, but in other media like magazines that belong to the institutions, in their website as blog stories or features. Yes, however, this year I want to make a comeback to the media. We say once a journalist, always a journalist.
Always a journalist. And
yes.
by doing that, are you able to, you are doing all this from Meru? I mean, are you able to do all this and work for these organizations from Meru? Because normally people would think such things can only be done in Nairobi or from Nairobi.
What happens is that with the coming of digital technology, with the digital technology, things have been very possible. If I can just tell you,
for which you are trained also.
Yes, which I've also trained on.
Yeah.
I think my life in communication has just happened. It's just been sheer, like it's just been planned or cut out basically, because I find
happening for
yes.
you.
Yes, it's been happening for me because I find that I had an opportunity of doing a digital communication training, and almost immediately the next assignment I got involved working virtually.
Yes, so you inaitwa maono.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said you might come back to mainstream media. Does it mean you're going to add it to whatever you are already doing now, or you're going to make a whole switch?
I will not make a whole switch. I want, or rather the strategy is to put whatever I am doing right now in the mainstream media, because I believe that what I'm doing, maybe to just tell you briefly what I do currently, is that I work around climate change issues. and environmental issues, and also agriculture.
Okay.
And mainly with experience, I've been doing that since 2006. I've been working around that area. And what
About
I've
14
realized,
years.
yes, that is about 14 years. And I've realized that there is so much that is happening out here in terms of those areas, but that has been coming out or is reported mostly technically. And the communities, and mostly the consumers, some of the consumers who are the community, are not able to have the experience of communication. So my plan is to start contributing. Again, my key line of communication is on print.
On what, sorry?
So the print media.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm mostly a newspaper person, even if I do the rest as well. So the plan is to start either doing an opinion column or contributing to magazines in newspapers. Say, like if it's Smart Harvest, I can write on, I have a lot of experience in agriculture reporting. And I've started doing that, talking to different people to give me an opportunity to start now contributing to those magazines.
That's good. And I think at this juncture, I would also say that we are soon, Bliss Oasis is soon launching Slopes Radio. The Slopes Radio.
Wow.
It's an online platform where we'll be covering the whole of Mount Kenya region. But I think it's happening because of you, because whenever you go into something unfolds. So maybe we'll be talking to you later about that.
Okay, that is okay.
Yeah, so now you are also involved in street families or street children in Meru town. We've seen a lot of activities you're doing on your Facebook page. And I think that's what attracted me to invite you to this podcast. And I think it's time you now told us about that street project, street children project.
Okay, so yeah, I remember this the street families story was what brought me to the podcast.
Yes.
But again, of course, I had to talk about what I've done for
Yeah,
me to get
in
to
our
that
podcast,
level.
we have to know about you before you tell us what you're doing. So it's okay.
Okay, sawa. So let me just take you briefly back to 2017 when I came to Meru. I came to Meru in 2017 October.
Yeah.
As I had been picked in one of the organizations down here, that is a non-governmental organization,
Yes.
to help them with their communication work. And the organization is known as Ripples International. They deal with the women and children issues. So when I came down here, of course, I was doing for them a lot of communication. I would see the challenges that were being experienced, especially by children, because it's actually a rescue organization for children that have undergone any form of abuse. And in the process of interacting with the communities in rescuing the children, I came across the street families. And since that 2017, I would sit down on the streets with the children and talk to them and listen to the stories. And that is when I discovered that these children actually had stories to tell. These children were not on the streets because they wanted to. Funny enough, Patrick, the children we see on the streets, of course, the perception by the public is that they are hardcore, is that they are criminals that have ran away from home. But what I can tell you with surety is that around 99% of them are on the streets because of the circumstances at home that forced them to go to the streets. So when I discovered that in 2017, I joined a team of other volunteers that were working with the children. in a project that is known as the Land Streets.
Known as what?
Land from the Streets, LFS. Land from the Streets is a project that was started in 2016 before I even joined them. But by the time I was joining, they needed more volunteers to work with them. And what the project does, because it exists up to today, and we still do the projects up to today, is that we decided that we are not taking these children out of the street, but we will go down to the streets to teach them from the streets. So that is where the name Land from the Streets came from. And it's undertaken by an organization known as Generation of Hope. Again, Generation of Hope to us means that it's mentoring a generation of hopeful youth and children and women, or rather the street families. We are giving them hope to tell them, yes, this is where you are today, but with encouragement and mentorship, you can be somewhere else, and your life can get back on track.
Okay. So is this Generation of Hope your own project, or is it you're doing it with other people?
We are doing it jointly with the other people. We are a number of about and all of us are trained in various areas.
How many you said? How many of you?
We are a number of 9 volunteers.
Okay.
And I happen to be the project manager. I coordinate the activities of the project.
You are their mother.
Yeah, they call me Fire Mama.
Fire Mama, that's nice. That's nice.
That is street slang, eh? Yeah, and for you to fit in the streets, you really have to understand their language and speak it.
Which you have learned.
Yes. If you find me on the street, Patrick, you'll not believe it's the same faith that you know.
Okay. Now, you say learn from the street. So what do you teach them? Apart from giving them hope, obviously, what exactly do you teach the kids?
Okay. First of all, I would like to let you know that we meet every Thursdays of the week. And on those particular Thursdays, we have a schedule of the trainings that happen. One of them that we do is trainings on life skills, and which now communication happens to be part of it. Of course, on the streets, these people have to beg, these people have to do some manual work for them to earn a few shillings for food and other necessities. So what we tell them is that you don't need to harass someone that you're approaching for them to approach you. There's a better way of asking for support. Yes, and you don't have to make it look like begging for you to get what you want. There's a polite way to ask for help from whoever you want to ask help from. So we teach them or mentor them on communication skills. We also do artwork. That is, we do a lot of paintings, we do a lot of drawing, because again, to us from experience, that is part of therapy. Yes, yes, and we meet. We meet. There's a public park in Meru, just almost at the middle of the town, called the Entere Park. We talked to the council people to allow us to be using that space.
Okay.
Yeah, so every Thursday you will find us at a certain corner. Even if you come to the park, you ask where commandos stay, they'll show you. We call it Freedom Corner.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yes, we call it. Yes, we call it Freedom Corner.
Yes. So okay.
Yes.
So you say you have approached the council to allow you to use
Yes,
the plot or rather the garden or whatever it is. Yeah? Have
yes.
they also provided any other assistance? Okay, it's good for them to allow you to use that, but has there been any other assistance? Or are you working in
Mm,
any way with them?
okay, we've been in communication, or rather, we've been having a lot of negotiations with the municipality. Actually, it's called the municipality about the same.
Mm,
However, we have not received direct support as a project.
mhm,
But out of our persistence in communicating and telling them and sensitizing them on the need to support the street families, the county government has come in to support the street families directly, which is a very good idea.
mm,
Because for us, what we say is that you don't need to support our project directly,
mm.
but you can support the beneficiaries even
Okay.
on your own.
Mm, okay.
So this year, about a week or two ago, quite a number of them graduated from the Meru Youth Service.
Mhm, mm,
Yes, the
mm,
county came in, picked quite a number of them. They've graduated, and now the next step is to engage them in various other activities,
mm,
which the county is the one that is doing that. But as a project, what we do, we look for apprenticeship,
mm,
where we approach different business people,
mm,
especially those dealing with vocational trainings or vocational kind of jobs.
mm,
Say like we approach, if it's a certain garage, we approach them, and if we see there is someone amongst the group of street families that has reformed and can work in a garage, they go for their training there. They do hands-on training,
mm,
that
mm.
is on-skill training.
Okay.
Say if we go to a salon, we find that one of the ladies, because we started specifically for the children, but with time we realized that we could not separate the rest of the street families. So
Mm,
now we are doing for the entire street family. So if it's a girl who has or a woman who has a interest in salon, and we really see that they can do it and they've reformed,
mm,
we attach them to a certain salon for their training,
mm.
and also, yes, and also as part of the rehabilitation.
Okay. You mentioned the Meru Youth Service,
Yes.
and for people living outside Meru may not know what that is. So can you tell us briefly what is Meru Youth Service?
Meru Youth Service is I can say, a replica of the National Youth Service,
Mm,
but
mm,
now at the county level, it's been
mm,
devolved to the county,
mm,
and it's a project by the Meru County government,
mm,
where they recruit various youth
mm,
to undergo training.
mm,
A part of it is that, of course, they do fitness training close to actually what is done in the National Youth Service.
okay.
Then again, they take them through the rehabilitation process.
Mhm,
And after that, they do a bit of vocational training for them.
mhm,
Yes, so it's a way of engaging youth and equipping them with skills that they can use to either do self-employment or
mm.
get employment elsewhere.
Okay. So how many families are you dealing with?
Uh, I will not give you in terms of families. I will give you in terms of individuals. Yes, because there are families that are single families where there is only one person,
Okay.
and there are families where you find that these street people marry and get married. They get
Wow.
children on the streets.
Mm,
They raise their families on the streets. And
mhm,
those that are lucky, they get houses somewhere, but still go back to the street. So in terms of individuals, the last we did our own census as an organization, and we found 270 within the Meru municipality
200,
only.
200 and what?
270 within
Individuals or families
individuals
that you are dealing with.
that we are dealing with. And what we know is that I actually came across a study that was done by someone who was undertaking who was doing some training or was studying at the University of Nairobi. They had a branch in Meru. And the person that did the study was specifically targeting the street families. And the information that came out of that is that there are about 1,500. That was, there were about 1,500. That was in 2015. Yes, but right now with again COVID, there's an influx of new entrants to the streets. Yes, so ourselves in the project, we take care of say about 270 to 300. But those that are not directly involved with the project within the town, they could be more than 1,000.
1,000 individuals.
Yes.
That's a big number. It's a big number.
Yeah.
And I think this is replicated all over the country in all towns, but we are now just talking about Meru.
Yes.
So would you be able to tell us, because you say 90% of these children, talking about children, run away from home because of the circumstances at home. What are these circumstances?
Okay. Yes. When it comes to the children, many of them run away from home because of domestic violence. And what happens is, for example, if there are fights within the family, amongst the parents, it ends up trickling down to the children.
Yes.
And most of these domestic issues are brought about by drinking, people engaging in these illegal drinking sprees and what have you. It also zeroes down to, for example, if the parents are using hard drugs like bang. So when I'll give an example of about 5 that I spoke to earlier on in the week. That was sometime early last week. That is the new entrance to the streets. And what they were telling me is that one of them, he was in class 7 in a school that is around within the outskirts of Meru. And the father and mother used to fight a lot to the point of even making comments like they don't want the children, they cannot take care of them, and they would also end up beating them so much. So they had to run away. The other issue is when it comes to matrimonial property. When let's say one of the parents pass on, especially when it comes to, say, like a father passing on, you find the mother somehow the property is taken and they are sent away, and they can no longer take care of their parents. Sorry, they can no longer take care of the children, so the children choose to go to the streets. The other thing is when the parents separate, like we have a case where, not even one case, so many cases, where when the parents separated, you find that the children are left with the father, and maybe the father remarries, and the new wife or the stepmother to these children starts mistreating them. And unfortunately, they cannot go to their mother because most likely the mother has also been married elsewhere.
Okay.
That they are being pushed from the mother to the father, mother to the father. At the end of the day, they give up and run away. Yeah.
Okay. So during you say you normally meet them on Thursdays.
Yes.
So during the rest of the week, they are by themselves.
Yes, and the reason why we meet on Thursdays, like I mentioned earlier, we are all volunteers, and all of us are working on other projects, of course, to earn a living.
Yes.
So on Thursdays is where at least we've talked to, we had an agreement that at least we need to create time as per the schedule. Whenever it's your time to train on that Thursday, you avail yourself. Yes, so that is the reason why, because of the limitation of time. But we've been looking for ways how we can make it a fully fledged program where we can even have activities running that can sustain the program for us to be able to get people that are there on full-time basis.
Okay. Now you are training in journalism, but you're interested in journalism, which means going out there and meeting people. Has it in any way helped you in what you are doing with the street kids? Or when you started doing it, were you kind of scared of mingling with them, and how was it like?
What I can say is that my training as a journalist was sort of propelled my being on the streets, because again, as a journalist with experience, you're trained to be ready to go anywhere. So I can say it made it very easy for me to interact with people, with the street families. Because again, you know, in media school, we are trained how to have people skills.
Yes.
That was a plus for me. And also in the project, it has been quite helpful because I've been able to approach, even as an individual or even together with the rest of the volunteers, to approach different corporates to support us whenever there is need. For example, like during our Thursday meetings, through the stories that we've been telling, we have one of the corporates down here, that is the Mafuko Industries. Mafuko Industries is very famous for bread. Of course, they have other things that they do here and there, but
I think they also had a football team. Do they still have a football team? Mafuko Bombers.
Yes, there was the Mafuko Bombers that was very famous. And this year, Patrick, we are trying now to revive that dream of the team with the street families. We've already gotten some football uniform. So again, we are talking to Mafuko to see if they can become our official sponsors.
That's nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you have anything so that we can close, maybe a final word to everybody. And yeah, because you're doing a great job there, and we should, or rather, we do encourage you to continue to do with the street kids, and also even developing your journalistic career. But any final word to our listeners?
Okay, my final word is for people out there. Whenever you come across these street people, if you're able to, please give them a listening here. Some of them have very interesting stories. Some of them really want to reform. However, as a society, it is us that can make that reform a reality for them. And through talking is where you can understand how you can come in. At times, some of them just need something very small like sanitary pads. You don't necessarily need to give them money. You don't necessarily need to, you don't need to give them money. What you can do, if someone tells you that they want money for food, you can just go somewhere, get them food as per what your pocket is able to afford. If it's sanitary pads, you can just go buy a packet of sanitary pads and give it to them. If you have time, you can listen and hear their stories, because there are some that have met strangers that have expressed their urge to go back to school. And these strangers have come through and supported them in going back to school.
Okay.
And if they did not, these strangers did not listen, they could not come to that point of supporting.
Okay.
So let's please try to understand them, try to support them. Of course, in there, you might experience some that are criminals, but a larger percentage of them, they are people that would like to reform given the opportunity.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, giving them opportunities would be giving them hope. And
yes.
you say that your organization is called what? Something of hope?
A generation of hope.
Generation of hope.
Yes, yes.
And I think because of what you and your colleagues are doing, these children and these families, hopefully, are going to keep on getting hope, and their hopes are going to get bigger and bigger. And they, in turn, are going to touch other people's lives. So, at Bliss Oasis Africa, we thank you for whatever you are doing, and we urge you to continue. And thank you for being our hosts. And personally, I'm going to make a huge trip around the mountain again. And when you make a trip around the mountain, somewhere along the line, you end up in Meru. And so I hope to be meeting you very soon. If not there, maybe in Nairobi or somewhere, or maybe we'll have another session like this one. So thank you very much, Faith, for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you've given me the platform. And please, people out there, we are still looking for clothes for the commandos. If you have any clothes or shoes, keep on supporting us. Thank you very much.
Yes, and I believe you have, do you have a website?
We don't have a website, but we have a Facebook page.
Yes.
Yes.
Your Facebook page is called?
Generation of Hope.
Yes.
Or Sauti za Tumaini.
Sauti za Tumaini.
Yes.
So anybody with an interest can go to Facebook and see what Faith is doing. We are going to post the names of the Facebook or the link to the Facebook page in the description section below. So thank you very much. Tutazidi kuonana and all the best.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us until the end. Bliss Oasis Africa offers the following services: counseling and life coaching, mentorship in creative writing, publishing and consultancy, website development and digital marketing. Please visit us at our website www.blissoasis.co.ke for more information. You can also call or send us a WhatsApp message on 0722 563 544. Thank you.